It is. It really is. So thank you for asking, Kendra.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've done like professional interviews, so bear with me.
No worries. I don't even feel it's professional. I feel like it's just a friend sitting here and we're going to chat about Glen Isle, which is the best thing to do.
So yeah, where would you like to begin since you know so much about this place?
I think we really kind of have to start with the idea of where I was introduced with Glen Isle.
Okay.
And my parents were from this little town in Texas, right outside of Amarillo, and they read about Glen Isle in a newspaper article that just was advertising inexpensive family vacations. And so the first time I can remember coming is 1971, and I was probably 3. And I walked into this room and it looked exactly the way it does today. And I can remember thinking, oh my gosh, all these dead animals are on the wall. Yeah. And my parents quickly soothed me and said, well, Mary Ruth, they just get to live forever this way. So sometimes even today when people will remark on the dead animals, I'm like, well, they get to live forever this way because their lives were not in vain. They get to decorate and adorn the walls of Glen Isle. So I should name them all.
I'm surprised you haven't.
I know. They should all have their own names as to who they are because they are special to me. But anyway, so I started coming, and Glen Isle was just this very much kids' paradise. You know, they had bingo night, movie night, square dance night. Every day was something exciting. Your parents would kind of shoo you out of the door at 8 o'clock. You wouldn't see them till 5. You'd go back for dinner, but fishing and petting the horses, and it was just amazing. And the Trips, who owned Glen Isle, had children, and most of them were older than we were, but there was one that was kind of younger, and she would lead us around and tell us stories about the property and run from me when I was annoying. And it was this magical place, and you would see the same people every year when you came because they were making reservations for the next year as they drove across the bridge. So it was just this rich, incredible place to come as a child and grow up. So we went for about 10 years and then we stopped and we wouldn't come back. And I had my reasons for why that happened, but mostly money. I think that it was getting more expensive to travel, and we were getting older and we wanted to do different things maybe, but when I became a parent, I wanted to come back. Okay. And so I returned as a mom, bringing my kids here, and my boys, I have 5 boys, and they were able to grow up and do a lot of the same things that I had done, which was really, really special. Now, at this age, Glen Isle had been around since the way that I knew it, probably since the 40s, but it had already been established long before that. So, it was starting to show its wear. And my husband would be like, oh, why are we coming there? And I was like, because it's magical, it's perfect, it's incredible. And he was like, well, if I ever owned that place, I would do blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, well, that's never going to happen, so we don't have to worry about that. And, but anyway, we came one last time in 2011. And at that time, the previous owner was now probably 88. And she was in the lodge, and that's where she kind of lived, and she staked herself out. And she was standing here, and I said, Mrs. Tripp, that cabin up there on the hill that's kind of dilapidated and starting to show its wear, what is the story on that cabin? And she goes, oh, that's the best ghost story I can ever tell you. And I'm like, well, what is it? And she said, it's the Mushroom Man story. And then she went on to tell the story of this man who had gotten into some trouble selling hallucinogenic mushrooms to some students of his. He was from back in Virginia, and he was caught, and he was going to have to go to prison for, wrongdoings. And back then, that was a time when they would let you kind of get your affairs in order. So he got to come back here. Well, he didn't get to come back here. He came back here.
Okay.
And went up to the cabin and took belladonna, the angel of death mushroom, and a bottle of aspirin. And his Jeep is still sitting out there. But
that's the Jeep I saw.
It is.
We walked up there, yeah. Okay.
So he started to cross over because his intention was to go up to Kenosha Pass where he would expire. And he didn't make it. And he fell down the hill, and the Trips, their dogs, hurt him. And they came over and took him to the hospital. But his family came back and said, yeah, we're never returning. And we're, going to close the cabin and it'll just be here forever. Nobody understood that. It was a beautiful place. And we have articles that say that President Eisenhower had stayed in the cabin. So there was this historical relevance to it. But the Tripp children took that story and terrorized the Guest children because we all knew about the Mushroom Man.
Okay.
And we were horrified that he was haunting the property and, roaming around and going to, take us up to his cabin and
Sure.
whatever, force us to take mushrooms. I don't know.
There's worse things.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. No. Anyway, but as a kid, you don't know what any of that really looks
Right.
like. So anyway, as a theater teacher, I had taken that story of the Mushroom Man and had incorporated into my theater education as storytelling because in theater, we know that storytelling is kind of what started, theater. And so we would sit around and act like cavemen and we would tell the Mushroom Man story. And it was really great. So there was this really rich history with Glen Isle that had always stuck with me. So I knew that Mrs. Tripp had died in 2012. She had passed away, and she had passed away on property. And she had checked her last guest in. We have the register book of where all of that took place on the day before she died. And so I had kind of followed what was going on with her history. And then in 2016, we happened to be out here and came upon Glen Isle and found it for sale. And so we started doing this. What does this look like? What are we going to do? How, could we do anything? No, we don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
Long story short, we took a leap of faith. We sold all our retirement. We did everything we could to acquire the property with the intent that we would bring it back with what it was. And what it was this great, rich, amazing historical property that we didn't even realize the depth of the history that would go and we would learn about. So if you push all the way back to when it was first here, it was Native American land. And the Utes, or what we were told, had been here to live and take use of the water. They had left, arrowheads, pottery. We still find those things in the ground, and the Native American bent trees that were left scattered throughout the property. And so that was our first lesson of history that we had no awareness of. And then we learned that a group of investors had bought the property and wanted to take advantage of the railroad. There were several of these resort-like properties built along the 285 corridor, and they were trying to bring Denver folks up, to escape the busyness, I think, of what they say was the, life in the city. And so this particular property had 14 guest rooms and a full-service dining room and fishing and golf and tennis. And we know these things because of these 8x10 pictures that are surrounding us. And we can just see, tennis rackets in their hands and golf clubs, people playing. And it was just like, wow, this is really incredible. And then you start learning, after the investors kind of, I don't know if they just bellied up or what happened, but it went and it sat empty for a while. And then this family came along, this husband and wife, and they purchased it. And then they have this little granddaughter that they're coming up here to spend time with and to see. And then at that point, in the 1940s, they gifted to her. So for $1, she purchases the Glen Isle property, and she and her husband, and then they will go on to have 5 children, and they will all work on the property. So it just has this great rich history. There's photo albums in there. There's guest books that still collect their guests. We have a guest book going back to 1920 that has, people signing in. And then we have all the memory books of travelers and guests that have stayed here, and people will come back and find themselves in these photo albums and their great-grandparents and their grandparents and their aunts and uncles and themselves. So it's a great historical part to be a part of, and just getting to save it and try to keep it going. It never feels like I own Glen Isle. It definitely feels like Glen Island's. It has a heartbeat and a spirit of its own, without a doubt. You will talk to people that have been coming here much longer than I have, and will say, even when we were kids, we knew that it had a heartbeat, and that it was the Grand Madam is what they call it, the Grand Old Dame. And I can see that. She is grand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Do you think that has to do with the Native Americans that lived on the land, or the people that frequented this area back in the day?
I
you think
do.
It all adds together?
I do. I think that the layers of history just build upon one another, and I don't see how you could not have that as part of the historical relevance of it. Shortly after we got here, we had a lady that we encountered who introduced us into these Native American bent trees. We really didn't know anything about them. And in the best way I can describe it from the most novice perspective is just like a bonsai tree, only they were taking pine trees and they were distorting and bending and, you know, putting different purpose into what their art was.
Yeah.
And so, but we've had Native American elders since then who have come out and done blessings on the land. And it's an incredible experience to have a Native American elder who's, you know, almost 90 years old on your property, speaking in his native tongue, blessing your land, and then taking you to these different trees and explaining the purpose and intent behind their shapes and what they were bent for. And then, you know, he speaks to the land, and he speaks through mediums and different things that you're just like, this is way bigger than me. You know, I am just a vessel that's keeping this property going at this point and juncture in its life. And, you know, to get to be a part is just, it's no one that I know would ever get to sit on a Native American ceremony.
Right.
It's incredible.
I understand, yeah. It seems like, unlike a lot of other locations we cover, there's not a lot of tragedy that has occurred here. It all seems like kindness, care, trust, construction, although there is obvious decay from the decades that have followed its inception. There have been people such as yourself, as well as all the other groundskeepers and such we've seen, that are managing to keep this place not just afloat, but keep it alive, keep it well, and keep people coming back to it. Do you want to elaborate on any of that, perhaps?
You know, I think that's a good point, and it's a very interesting concept to have different people from all different backgrounds, different cultures. You know, you have people from all over the world coming here, and as people that have cared for it, there is definitely a badge of honor that you feel being part of its story. And you have mentioned that we haven't had a lot of tragedy, and I think that's probably true. But there has been a few. And, you know, we hear, there's an article on one of the pictures up there that talks about a fountain that was built right outside of the lodge, and a small child had drowned in it. She was a worker's child and had gotten into the fountain. So, you know, there's always that thought of, you know, what has happened. And I know from the Native Americans' perspective, there was families that were buried here and things like that. So, but with that being said, there's a peace and a calmness that this property, you know, is felt by so many people that drive over the bridge. There's so many people that will remark on its magic, its peace, the healing. We've had people come here. I have a gentleman who had, I think, stage 3 cancer, and will truly tell you that Glen Isle was what saved him, that there was healing that was going on here that he could feel. So I think that any of us that have walked this journey of caretaking for Glen Isle feel that belief that we're here for purpose, that our feet were planted here, that you see people come, you see people go. I always tell people, yes, you're welcome to come here, but you need to smile as big as when you're walking across the bridge as you are leaving, as you are when you're coming. I want your experience here to be a positive one, where you know that you have put good things into the life of this property.
Gotcha. There's so much to unpack.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's like a suitcase, a treasure trove.
I'm going to ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
You can just get short answers if you like.
Sure.
Or if you have a longer story to tell, that's
Okay.
fine. Are there any rooms in particular that have a certain energy to them? Yeah.
That's a really good question. I've lived on the property in seven different cabins, and one of my stints was in the lodge. So I lived here for about 6 months. So I have a special partiality to room J. I feel very much like it's a protective room for me. I feel like that if I listen to guests talk, there's a lot of talk about room K, and it's like the twin bedroom.
Right. Yeah.
That one tends to get noticed a lot. There's a room up there that is locked, and of course everybody thinks, oh, why is that room locked?
Sure.
What's going on in that room? It's just a storage room, but that
Yeah.
one gets noticed a lot.
Okay.
D sometimes will have people have experiences in it. And maybe A has had
Maybe A.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I know Kendra over there.
Yeah.
Yesterday when we were here, one of the first areas we went to was the games room down below.
Sure.
And she had mentioned she felt, I don't want to say like an eerie presence, but there was something in that room
Interesting.
that she could feel. Is
Okay.
there?
I haven't had anybody really mention that particular room.
Yeah.
There are definitely photographs that have occurred
Yeah.
over the years that I've been here where people will say that they see figures sitting and standing in the windows and the doors.
Okay.
But it has not been in that particular area where people have sensed anything. I would like to mention that the tree that's sitting in the middle of our room was a live tree, and the root ball and the rest of the tree go down through the rec room in the center of it. I'm not sure what your belief is on the energy of trees and things, but I wouldn't put it past that you could have felt maybe that, Kendra.
I was going to bring that up because I know, or I think I know, it's right below us, like
Yes,
you said,
it
correct?
is.
And I know you mentioned the tree yesterday, and
Right.
so I think that makes sense to me. I'm not sure how you feel.
Yeah, I think that would probably make sense. It could just be that it was just spooky and quiet down there too.
Yeah.
So
It was a little quiet, and it's definitely colder down there.
Oh,
than
yeah,
the rest of
definitely.
it.
yeah.
The weird thing about the lodge is that throughout the summer,
Mhm.
you would think this would get really hot.
Sure.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It stays very cool. It's very cold in the winter.
Yeah.
But in the summertime, this is the one place you definitely want to hang out, just because the rest of the property can be very hot.
Yeah.
And this place always has a nice feel to it. But I do find, and I've never thought about it before until we were just talking about this, but the heartbeat of Glen Isle has always been the lodge.
Mhm.
And with the idea that it was built around this live tree, that was a living thing that lived in the lodge. So maybe that heartbeat extends. I don't
Sure.
know. I don't know. But that's
Yeah.
interesting. I have not heard anything about the rec room though.
I like that idea.
Yeah, it's a nice thought.
Could be explored upon.
Yeah. No, there's definitely been some interesting things occurring in here. Many stories. Many people walking through that door. Some very intent on giving me information about what they were told
Sure.
that I needed to know. Some turning around and saying I can't be in that building. And that always surprises me because this is my home and I feel very safe. I feel like I could walk through this building at any given moment of any time of day. I will not lie to you. I do talk to what's going on in here. I just say, hey, I'm here to do this, and I'm just walking through. And sometimes you can be sitting down here and it's very quiet and you hear the footsteps walking upstairs and nobody else is in the building. So, there's definitely moments that they make themselves known.
Gotcha.
It's not just this space though. We have a couple of cabins that are very spirited as well.
Yeah. I mean, you said the land has been blessed numerous times.
Yes.
Native Americans have been buried here. I mean, I think this whole area on this side of the creek,
Yeah, I would agree with you.
has something.
There's a lot of energy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. I'm glad to confirm that. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
You know, I see this property as a very incredible gift to Colorado. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. I feel like that these types of places are a dying breed, that if we don't do whatever we can to protect it, that it's probably not going to be here in another 100 years. And then I feel like it has relevance and purpose, and it's a structure that should be saved. And so as the caretaker and the spokesperson for her, I hope that, you know, whoever comes across this property can at least see that. Because you have some people that'll drive up and be like, ah, what are you going to do with that place?
Sure.
And I'm just like, ugh, what are you talking about? why are you bad mouthing Glen Isle? This is a great place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look in the picture, I'm staring right into that picture, and I look back to what I see today.
Yeah.
You know, that's so cool that it's not been altered. In 125 years,
Absolutely.
it has stood just as it is.
Yeah, if this place was in Denver, it'd already be condominiums.
Right,
So,
exactly.
It sucks.
Yeah,
It's
it
real bad.
does.
So I'm glad someone like you has taken over this place and kept it
Thanks.
as genuine as possible.
Yeah, there's a certain expectation that you do that when you're on the National Register.
Yeah.
Some people will say like, oh, why is the porch wonky? It's like, well, it's wonky because there's an expectation that if those rooms below it weren't really there, that we will remove them. And if they were there, we're going to keep them. So there's just a lot of hoops that you have to cross through. It's not as easy as everybody thinks to just start digging in and, you know, redesigning and constructing things. Like everything has intent as to why it's here and what the purpose of it was. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm
Cool.
still unpacking every
Good.
bit of information every time I talk to you.
I love it.
It's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
more than enough.